Lunchtime with James Neish on Radio Gibraltar.
It's 5 minutes past 1 on Thursday, 20th of March. A very good afternoon to you. Coming up over the next hour.
Lunchtime on Radio Gibraltar, a diet of information and entertainment served up with a splash of popular music. As we take a look at the preparation and method to this weekday recipe, is it likely to be more a serving of fast food or a carefully prepared menu of choice?
Like everything else in broadcasting, either radio or television, is that the program is on air for an hour, but it doesn't mean that it's prepared in an hour. It basically takes the whole morning to put together. Chris and Davina, they are the lunchtime producers, totally committed to the output of that program. They would meet in the morning, discuss ideas, sometimes bounce off things with me. And basically what we try and do is we tell people if it's happening in Gibraltar, we are talking about it.
It's the sort of programme that's obviously very immediate. News and current affairs, it's our flagship programme, which means that everything is reflected, everything that's happening in the community, be it the lighter, the more political on the other extreme, or the controversial, everything is covered on the programme.
Hi Kaylee, how are you, right? Kaylee, you've spoken to Samantha about recording a short piece for us, for radio. So it's a question of chasing the interviews, looking at the reports that are featuring, liaising directly with the newsroom, of course, and see what angles they are following on the various stories.
Well, there's a close relationship, one because although I'm always following what comes through on my screen as well, all the stories that are coming in, but we like to liaise to see what angle they're going to give it, how they're going to cover it, and so that we follow suit. And so, we will complement what is going out on TV at night, what's going out on radio, run those sort of interviews. So in that respect, yes, we're very much in touch.
So, once all the information, interview clips and announcements are gathered, does it always come together in good time for the lunchtime programme?
Sometimes it even comes together whilst the program is on air. One of the exciting things of hosting lunchtime is that things are sometimes changing at the last minute.
A really bad case.
It's bad because people don't realise how much your daily
So that is quite a remit. As you can imagine, there are certain aspects where you can pre-plan. You have some newsletters or some slots where those are actually done in advance, so you have a certain structure on the programme, but you can come in the morning and you have a fairly good idea of what you're going to chase, the stories, and then that can change, so that we're there, we're talking to the people who they have perhaps heard the news stories, and we can follow that on, develop that as well. So that's a very important part. So things do change quite rapidly.
It means that sometimes we're editing the program as it's going out live on air. We're moving things around, perhaps more reactions are coming in. Sometimes when there's a big story, something big has happened in Parliament, we've had the situation with the frontier, of course. So we like to be on top of things, and we like to bring those things in a world of social media. Immediacy is so important.
Nerves can be frazzled sometimes, but more often than not, we hit the deadline by midday. We do have a pretty good structure of what the programme is going to be, but in between that, it's a case of ringing people, arranging the interviews. They can either come up to us, we'll go down to them with our flash mic, or simply on the phone, which works extremely well. So, you can literally have an interview within minutes of having spoken to somebody.
For people who've posted their no makeup selfie online. Mira, can I just call you back from the studio and record just a short piece down the line, 30 seconds?
So, with the distinct absence of tapes, cassettes or even CD recorders, where are all these spoken words kept? How is it controlled and managed?
Over the past few years, Radio Gibraltar has made a huge investment in infrastructure. Everything is now digital. We have a great infrastructure where we have a network in place. It's the Burley system, which is a professional broadcast system, and anything that goes in there can be seen by me automatically in the studio. We have a great talkback system as well, which is one of the interesting aspects that people don't hear or see at home, both on television and radio, that whilst you're presenting, a producer could be talking to you in the ear and telling you, this is coming up, we're changing this, you don't have this interview available at the moment, just give me another 10 seconds seconds and they'll be there. And that's the beauty of presenting one of these live shows. Communication is key. To have the tools in place to allow that communication is also important, and everything is computerized. So when system goes down, that's when you call engineering.
Thank goodness for the human touch then. Contact of another sort is, of course, that which provides all the information that makes Lunchtime the programme that it is.
Why, on Tuesday afternoon, Twitter users began posting...
Of course, there is a lot of talk with outside bodies. We work closely with the Royal Gibraltar Police, with other associations and groups. And then, for example, Sam in the office will put together the traffic, liaising with police.
As it's closed from Queensway up to the roundabout by the hospital.
Ben would have had a live feature with the RGP in the morning, so information from that is then passed on to Sam as a broadcast assistant, who then puts together the traffic information and again monitoring Twitter. And perhaps one of the presenters has been driving around and has spotted something, and they come in and say, do we know about this? We also include that.
Local radio, of course, is local. And although whatever info your friendly driver might have dragged in could be interesting stuff, what of the specialised content? Is it always possible to find?
Because Gibraltar's small, we're limited in terms of being able to find some experts on occasions for certain things that we want to particularly talk about. But when it comes to being able to talk to people, the fact that we're just a small community, you'll either meet them down Main Street, you know them already, and so it's important to build up these relations, and a lot of people become very good friends as well. That helps an awful lot in this job.
One long-time friend that has helped Christine in her job for many years is always to be found within easy reach in the studio.
It's thick, it's very tatty, and it's precious, and it never leaves the studio, I can tell you. Everybody has their numbers on their Blackberries or whatever, but I like to have the old-fashioned way is to keep it in this book, and that sits in a special place in my office come studio and never moves from there, because I think if I were ever to lose that, I would ground to a halt.
So, from trusted friends to virtual ones, how has social media and the internet affected the programme's popularity?
Online proves to be very, very popular. We have the Listen Again service, the Listen Live, which attracts thousands on a daily basis. So that's very encouraging to see. We also get a lot of feedback. For example, on Lunchtime, we invite listeners who have their say. They can call in, they can tweet us, they can join the conversation on Facebook or email. And we always get lots of people calling in, having their say. Again, like with everything, there are topics that just gets the blood boiling. When it's something to do with the frontier, when it's housing, when it's health, it gets more people talking. Sometimes you don't get that huge response, but it has ups and downs.
One thing is to have ups and downs from the public in the form of opinion, but it would be quite another if programme content in the form of interviews was thin on the ground. Is the great local public willing to cooperate on an ongoing basis?
I find that people are very good at that because, you know, they're doing their job as well, and all of a sudden get a call from us and say, can you just drop everything? Can you come out at this meeting, or can you defer that meeting because we really need to get you on the air within the next 15 minutes, and it does happen. 15th of June at the Muga complex at the Bayside. One that comes to mind of people being there for us the minute we need to speak to them and get them on the air is somebody who obviously has great connections to Gibraltar, is Lindsay Hoyle, who was the chairman of the All-Party British Gibraltar Group at the time, and is now Deputy Speaker of the House. And I can't remember what the actual story was, but certainly we needed to get him on quite quickly. And I remember going to my trusty little book, which is now all the worse for wear, but that is a very important little book because anyone you need to speak to, you've got the contact there. So anyway, I did call him, and he said, I happened to be driving down the motorway, but pulled into a lay-by, and the interview was recorded. Little did people know, that he had been happily motoring away when we decided to call him. Christina Cortez has more details. Although 99% of the programme, probably content, is local, when the Nelson Mandela story, when he passed away not so very long ago, these stories matter. People do want to hear more about this, and I managed to find somebody who is Gibraltar connected but happened to be invited to the premiere of the Nelson Mandela film, which is where the news broke, and he'd just been talking to Mandela's daughters. And so we got a nice little interview there. So all these little things, bring the programme together, and I think make it very interesting.
Tonight,
Things local,
fresh
things
wines
global,
begins
things
theatre
weather,
company
things
with
traffic,
presenting
frontier
The
queues
Saint,
and local
and
charities,
Santos
sports
Production
events and
present
cake stalls.
Teen Tales. Both
Are there really
original
people out there that are
productions,
happy to be
and
served
Davina
this
Barada
spread
has been
every
looking ahead.
weekday lunchtime?
Radio Gibraltar at the Drama Festival.
Tonight's drama festival sees
What a question. We like to think we know who our audience are. Having said that, I think we all have different ideas because we haven't had an audience survey for a long time. People's lives change. A lot of people don't go home for lunch anymore. They eat, out. They're in the office. And so we still have a pretty wide base.
The reality is that perhaps lunchtime attracts the older generation, but more and more we get a lot of feedback from young people as well. I think it's a good community program. It tells you what's happening in Gibraltar, so it's for everybody.
Teen Tales aims to provide an
On air
insight
to
into the
newsroom,
psyche
Christine
of a
Vasquez has
younger
2 reports.
generation.
And not necessarily do people, as in times gone by, listen to us specifically on the radio at lunchtime. They can be listening us to on the move nowadays, whether it be on the app or whatever. So a lot of people do still follow the programme. We run the main interview in the evening as well, so there's always that chance of catching up. We do have a roundup between 6 and 7 with Claire.
One of the great things, and we are very, very lucky here at Radio Gibraltar, is that people switch on for a very long time. We have people driving to work listening to Radio Gibraltar. They get into the office, they switch on Radio Gibraltar, so they listen to all the programmes that we have. So that is also important. When you have a programme that sits in between, in effect, 2 music programmes, that you still keep the audience. They're following what's happening in Gibraltar, and then they move back to that music programme, but without having touched the dial. That's important.
Now voice level.
Do not touch the button then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Surely there must be times when listeners are tempted by the dial, button or mouse. What does lunchtime offer as an anecdote to the mundane? There must be some, surely.
I suppose that in a way what's mundane to somebody is the most important and interesting feature that we have on the day, because different people will be interested in different aspects, in different stories, in different angles. And I think that the beauty of lunchtime is that it can cater for a cross-section of the community. Having said that, yes, Gibraltar is small. When it gets to summer, perhaps in the height of August, stories can be a little bit thin, and the producers need to work harder to chase things, perhaps give things different treatment, do other follow-ups. But it just goes up and down like in every newsroom in the world. I mean, UK media, you put on the TV one day or the radio and you see that they're stretching one of the stories because they're also thin on the ground. And then other days you just have so much that you have to actually leave things out from the programme. It's a really interesting process.
In New York and Washington, Mr. Picardo will deliver an address to the Washington-based Heritage Foundation.
Lunchtime is a reflection of what's happening in the community, and ranging from the top political story to things that are happening, for example, in drama, in dance. We like to be a window to Gibraltar, and not only for residents, but also now with the internet, we've got lots of people listening from abroad, monitoring what's happening in Gibraltar. So we like to be the window to Gibraltar and covering a wide range of topics.
Sorry, Chris. Drama slipped out.
When there's issues that are important to the community, and we always like to know what people are thinking, to share ideas, for them to share their thoughts with us, they do get in touch. So obviously the audience is there and with us.